are now looking at a 2023 Volkswagen Polo Vivo GT in wild cherry red metallic. And in these little videos, we aim to bring you bizarrely random information. For instance, most people would assume that motoring journalists dream about McLarens, Ferraris and M5s, but I'm here to tell you that mine contains obscure K cars, every Mercedes from the 1990s and the Volkswagen Polo Vivo GT. Why? Because I get my weekly fix of hybrid turbo crossovers at work, so I always yearn for the simplicity of a basic vehicle, like VW's locally made and slightly warmed up Vivo GT. The recipe is absolute genius. Reuse and improve a bland but great product, make it cheaper by building it locally, and then add a few sporty bits to spice it up. The Polo Vivo GT should be a complete runaway success, but alas, our passenger car market and economy have split into two major factions: overpriced tech-laden SUVs and cheapest chips runabouts. And while the Vivo starts off in the latter camp, it loses ground to Korean and Indian-made stuff when we factor in standard kit. On top of that, at 350,000 Rand, this 1.0 TSI GT is priced well beyond the pain threshold of 5,000 Rand a month, or about 250,000 Rand, so it occupies the rather empty niche of performance budget vehicles, or budget performance vehicles. And circling back to the stingy standard features, those Polo-flavored Hyundai ads about power windows and screen sizes weren't just made for fun. They are, unfortunately, based on truth. Even this range-topping GT derivative has rear windy windows, manual air conditioning, and a comparatively small infotainment screen. Then again, I know quite a few people who prefer all these simple things to the extravagance or frustrating complication of their counterparts. Speaking of simplicity, the initial Vivo GT's wonderfully zesty 1.6-litre four-cylinder power plant had to eventually make way for this more modern 1-litre turbo-petrol three-cylinder unit, not only to improve its theoretical fuel consumption, but also to give the little hatchback a fighting chance against high weight or altitude. Operated by a pleasingly light and responsive clutch, you do well to keep the rev counter above 2 grand at all times, and avoid snappy shifts to second gear, as these can sometimes end in the mechanical side tunnel of reverse gear. Other than that, this tiny turbocharged 3-pot is a wonderful upgrade to the Vivo GT theme. Most of our testers were amused by its slightly lumpy 3-cylinder sounds, which can easily be mistaken for a rough-running 6-pot. VWSA has no 0 to 100 km/h claim, so we did a few test runs, the best of which was 9.42 seconds. That is a pretty impressive number, as is the claimed top speed of almost 200 km/h. A single brake test from 100 km/h was over in 2.73 seconds and 38.5 meters. It's common knowledge that a Polo Vivo won't win Gymkhana events straight out of the box, but rather shines with a pliant ride and predictable handling. We'd like to congratulate VWSA for finding the perfect amount of suspension fettling and wheel size to give this GT version a sportier yet tolerable ride. The vehicle's generous seat padding also adds to passenger comfort, especially at the front, where you'll find beefier, sport-like seats. One of my personal highlights of these German budget cars is that they still feature an adjuster wheel for the front seat backrests, instead of the rudimentary release lever in Asian cars, which can only be used at standstill. At this point, I'd like to lament the loss of the old GT's red safety belts and GTI-inspired seat fabrics, plus the demise of the old two-door model, although I will concede that it was not a huge sales hit. Interior space in this new one is sufficient for a quartet of adults with a bit of luggage, or reaches proper hatchback utility extents when you flatten the rear furniture. In closing, our time with the new Volkswagen Polo Vivo 1.0 TSI GT was just as enjoyable as the Virgin outing with its 2010 ancestor. It's nimble, practical, cheeky, fairly frugal and affordable, fun to drive, and comes with an uncompetitive 3-year 120,000 km warranty, plus optional warranties or service plans at extra charge. Despite that, I stand by my initial statement. I would happily buy this Vivo GT, or any of the models that preceded it.